Hello friends, it's Alex on the block and welcome to a new video. So today I'll be talking about the top 10 books that I read in 2021. So coming in at number 10 is a YA fantasy entitled Six Crimson Cranes. So this book was just so freaking good, and all I could say about this book is that the writing is so vibrant and it's just quite a unique book to me. I've never read anything like this before. So I picked up this book mainly because the cover was so gorgeous and because I know that there are dragons in it. That sold me on the book and I wasn't disappointed. I read it while I was in like a hotel and it was such a gorgeous book. Basically, it follows this princess who is exiled and her brothers are turned into cranes, and it follows her adventure to saving her brothers and saving her kingdom, and there are dragons, and it's just such a vibrant book. That's the word that I could describe this book with. And then coming in at number 9 is Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura. So again, I bought this because the cover is gorgeous, but also a lot of people said that this book is kind of like a Studio Ghibli film, and I kind of agree with that and kind of don't, but more on the agree side. So this book essentially is about these children who, for some reason, like they have their own personal reasons, they don't go to school. Particularly, I think it was high school. And so this book delves on their reasons, like how they come together in this castle. So there's this castle behind the mirror and there are, I think, 10 of them, the same like people who can't go to school for reasons that I will not divulge. But yeah, this was so good. It's just very melancholy, if you get what I mean. It's just very like solemn. That's the whole feel of this book. So don't expect to be greeted by a happy kind of Studio Ghibli film. As you all know, well, some of you might know, Studio Ghibli films are known to be comforting, but also there are a lot of sad sides in Studio Ghibli films. So this is more on the sadder side of it. So yeah, I highly recommend this book, and yeah, it's just so good. So good. And then at number 8, this is actually a reread, and the first time I read this book, I didn't like it that much. Like, I was even planning on reselling this book to someone who might enjoy it more than I do, but then one day I just wanted to read a fantasy that isn't like heavy and isn't very long, so I reread this, An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, and oh my goodness, did I love it so much more than the first time I read it. This is kind of like, I could describe it as kind of like Howl's Moving Castle. They have some similar themes, but this book is essentially about this girl. I forgot her name. What's Isabel. It's about this girl Isabel who is an artist, and in this world, like, there are humans and there are fairies, and the humans are the only ones who can do these kinds of like trade, like art, cooking. I forgot what they called it, but yeah, anyway, they're the only ones who could cook, like who can make stuff, who can create things. And the fair folk, they kind of commission these people to do portraits of them or like cook for them and stuff like that. So she mainly does portraits of fair folk because they're the ones who are like, who have the means to pay, and they pay by using charms. One day, the Prince of Autumn goes to Isabel to have his portrait like painted, and then she accidentally paints him with the human emotions. So they're fae, they can't have these human emotions. So he was embarrassed in front of his court. There was like a grand opening of the portrait and stuff. It basically follows them on an adventure, and then on this adventure some stuff happens, and it was just so good, and it's really short. So yeah, sometimes I do look at my bookshelf and think like what if I read it again, you know. And then number 7 is the I think, final book in the romance series that a lot of us love, a lot of us enjoyed, and that is Act Your Age, Eve Brown. So this follows the youngest sister, Eve Brown, and basically she's a hot mess, and her parents were like kind of tired of her by that time, so they had this proposition that Eve had to have this like a job. So she went to a random inn and she kind of was interviewed to be the cook, and then the owner of the inn, Jacob, is like her complete opposite. He is strict, he likes to have schedules organized. Meanwhile, she's, as I said, a hot mess. And yeah, it's just very kind of like dislike to lovers. They don't really hate each other, they're just opposites, I guess. Opposites to lovers. I don't know, but it was so much fun, and I think this is my favorite out of the Brown Sisters trilogy books, just because Eve Brown is such a fun character to read about, as well as Jacob, like the love interest in this book. So yes. So coming in at number 6, I think a lot of us know about this already. This very popular graphic novel series, which is Heartstopper. So in 2021, last year, I read all the books and then I reread all the books. So basically, I read them twice. Just because they bring me so much comfort. This series is about two boys who are in this all-boys school, I believe, and yeah, in the UK, and it's just about their life and their love with each other. Just such comforting vibes. Like, you won't fully get it if you haven't read it. Like, you won't fully get the hype if you haven't read it, because its main asset is mainly the comfort and the love that it gives to you as a reader. So yes. So at number 5, probably some of the best prose that I have ever read. This book is entitled A Dowry of Blood. So this book is about Dracula's wives, Dracula's brides, and essentially it just follows their life through several centuries, millennia, I don't know. It just follows a really, really long time, and it's in the perspective of the first bride, I believe. Well, it's not actually confirmed if she's like the first bride, but yeah, the first of all the brides that were presented in the book. So yeah, anyway, it's just a very poetic book. It's not poetry, it's just it just has this poetic, melancholy, beautiful writing that I just love, and I'm sure a lot of people loved as well. And yeah, it was just so good. Like, even though Dracula is this asshole, you kind of feel not really feel for him, but you can kind of empathize. I don't know, you just care for him a little bit, and then you care a lot about his brides. And yes, it's just very fun to read about all of these ancient cities and all of these brides who have formed like this little family. So there's also kind of like a found family trope in this one. Obviously, check out all the trigger warnings because there's a lot in this book. But yeah, if you're just looking for, I would say this is a quick read. For a quick read that has beautiful writing and has vampires and has ancient cities and just has this amazing atmosphere, read this book. And then coming in at number 4, I believe I've talked about this book, this series a lot in this channel, I think. Yeah. So this is the Nevermoor series. So this is a middle grade fantasy series about this girl called Morrigan Crow, who is whisked away to the magical land of Nevermoor by Jupiter North, who is the owner of a hotel in Nevermoor. So essentially, she's like cursed to die on her, I believe, 16th birthday, 12th birthday. One of her birthdays, she's destined to die, and then Jupiter North goes to their house gets her out of there, and then she doesn't die. The first book mainly talks about her adventure on becoming one of, I forgot the name. Oh, the Wondrous Society. She has all of these trials she has to go through to become a member of that society. So yeah, it's just so good. If you're a fan of that magical series that we have all loved before, but the author is very problematic, so we don't give them the space anymore, you would like this book. This is actually in some ways better than that series. Yes, mainly because probably the author is not transphobic. Okay, number 3 is Pachinko by Minjin Lee. So this book is a thick one. It's a long one. Because this book is about 4 generations, I believe 3 or 4 generations of this family. So it starts with this girl named Sunja. Yeah, it starts with this girl named Sunja, who unfortunately becomes pregnant with the child of someone who is married, so basically she can't be with him. So then it follows her journey from South Korea to Japan, and yeah, it just follows the life of their family, their hardships. It mainly looks at their life being influenced by a lot of things, racism, like because they're in Japan, and at that time Korea was occupied by Japan, and there's a lot of this like discrimination going on, so that, and then also in poverty because obviously they're Korean in Japan, and there aren't many opportunities for them to really thrive. And then of course like the war, like I believe World War II and the Korean War. Not sure about the Korean War, but yeah, it is just so freaking good. Like, yeah, it won the National Book Award. Oh, it was a finalist for the National Book Award for a reason. Yes, it's just so good, and someday I will reread this, but not now because it's very, very, very long. Honestly, I believe this book is a literary masterpiece. Just weaves together a lot of themes and things so beautifully, and yeah, talks about a very important like time period. So the second best book that I read in 2021 was Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. Choi. Yes. So yeah, this book is about 2 sisters who are estranged, and one sister, like the older sister, essentially she like discovers that she has cancer, and the 2 of them are Korean Americans. They're Korean who are living in New York City. So yeah, it just follows them reconnecting, follows their like familial life. Sometimes it's very infuriating to read about them just because they're so petty, and just sometimes they're quite horrible people, but yeah, it's just so good, and Mary H.K. Choi did a great job like molding the character of Jane and June together. I'm also pretty sure I talked about this book a lot in 2021, so yeah. And then the best book of the year for me is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. And how do I describe this in words that will convince you to read it? Like, it's just such a freaking good book. So this says that in a famine-stricken village on a dusty yellow plain, 2 children are given 2 fates, a boy greatness, a girl nothingness. In 1345, China lies under harsh Mongol rule. For the starving peasants of the Central Plains, greatness is something found only in stories. When the Zhou family's eighth-born son, Zhu Chongba, is given a fate of greatness, everyone is mystified as to how it will come to pass. The fate of nothingness received by the family's clever and capable second daughter, on the other hand, is only as expected. When a bandit attack orphans the two children though, it is Zhu Xiongba who succumbs to despair and dies. Desperate to escape her own fated death, the girl uses her brother's identity to enter a monastery as a young male novice. There, propelled by her burning desire to survive, Zhu learns she is capable of doing whatever it takes to stay hidden from her fate and claim her brother's given destiny as her own. So yeah, that's what this book is about. Nothing I could say could top that description. But yeah, this is just so freaking good. I've tweeted the author multiple times. I'm sure they're tired of me tweeting about it. But yeah. And I'm also rereading it because the first time I read it, I read an arc of it, I believe. Yes, I read an arc of it, and then I bought this because this is now one of my all-time favorite books. Like, yes, masterpiece, amazing, amazing, amazing. So yeah, I'm rereading this and I'm actually annotating quite a lot. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, I'm so happy with this book. I always talk about it. Yeah, maybe too much, but who cares? So those were my top 10 books of 2021. Let me know your favorite books from last year and what books you're expecting to read this year. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye! So this follows the youngest sister. How long has this been going? Oh, 10 years. Honestly, I